In 1299, a small Turkish tribal chieftain controlled a patch of land so insignificant that the great powers surrounding him didn't even bother to crush it. His army was small, his treasury was thin, his territory was a footnote on the edge of a dying empire. Within 150 years, his descendants had conquered Constantinople, the most fortified city in the world. Within 200 years, they controlled the Middle East, North Africa, Southeastern Europe, and the most important trade routes on Earth. The Ottoman Empire didn't rise gradually. It erupted, driven by military genius, religious fire, and a system of governance so sophisticated it turned conquered enemies into the empire's most loyal soldiers. This is the story of how a forgotten border tribe became the most powerful empire on Earth. To understand the Ottoman rise, you have to understand the world they rose into, because the Ottoman Empire was born not from strength, but from a perfect storm of surrounding weakness. The late 13th century Anatolian landscape was a power vacuum waiting to be filled. The Mongol invasions had shattered the Seljuk Sultanate that had previously dominated the region, fragmenting it into a patchwork of small Turkish principalities called beyliks, each competing for territory, resources, and survival. To the west, the Byzantine Empire was a collapsing shadow of its former self, its Anatolian territories shrinking decade by decade as it struggled with internal political chaos, economic exhaustion, and military decline. Into this fractured landscape stepped a man named Osman. Osman I, from whose name the empire takes its title, Osmanli in Turkish, Ottoman in English, was the leader of a small Turkic tribe settled near the Byzantine frontier in northwestern Anatolia. What made Osman exceptional was not his starting resources, which were minimal, but his strategic vision and his understanding of what motivated people to fight and die for a cause. He framed his enterprise not merely as tribal expansion, but as Gaza, holy warfare on behalf of Islam against the Christian Byzantine frontier. This religious framing attracted warriors from across Anatolia, Muslim fighters seeking both spiritual purpose and material reward on the frontier. His territory began growing, not through overwhelming force, but through a combination of military raiding, strategic marriage alliances, and the steady absorption of Byzantine border towns whose exhausted populations sometimes preferred Ottoman governance to Byzantine neglect. Osman died around 1326 without seeing his greatest ambition realized, the conquest of the Byzantine city of Bursa. His son Orhan took it almost immediately after his father's death, and Bursa became the first Ottoman capital, a real city, a real treasury, and a real foundation from which something larger than a tribal raiding operation could be built. Orhan was the empire's first true administrator as well as its military commander. He established a regular salaried infantry force, the beginnings of a professional army that would eventually evolve into the most feared military in the world. He minted Ottoman coins, built mosques and charitable institutions, and created the administrative structures that transformed a successful raiding enterprise into a functioning state. The expansion that followed was breathtaking in its speed and geographic reach. Ottoman forces crossed into Europe for the first time in 1352, establishing a foothold on the Gallipoli Peninsula, a bridgehead into the Balkans that the Byzantines had fatally allowed in exchange for Ottoman military assistance in one of their endless internal dynastic disputes. It was a catastrophic miscalculation. Within decades, Ottoman armies had swept through Thrace, Bulgaria, and Macedonia. The Byzantine Empire was now surrounded on all sides by Ottoman territory, reduced to Constantinople itself and a handful of isolated outposts, a head without a body, waiting for the end. The Ottomans faced their most severe early crisis not from Byzantium, but from the east. In 1402, the terrifying Central Asian conqueror Timur, known in the West as Tamerlane, shattered an Ottoman army at the Battle of Ankara, captured Sultan Bayezid I, and dismembered the Ottoman state. For a decade, the empire fractured into competing principalities ruled by Bayezid's sons, fighting each other for succession. By every conventional measure of imperial history, this should have been the end. It wasn't. The Ottoman institutional structures, the administrative systems, the professional military, the religious foundations, proved resilient enough to survive the political collapse above them. Mehmed I emerged victorious from the civil war, reunified the empire, and the expansion resumed as if the catastrophe had been merely an interruption. What made the Ottomans genuinely revolutionary as an imperial power was a system that no European state of the period could match: the devshirme. Literally meaning collection, the devshirme was a periodic levy on Christian subject populations in which young boys, the most promising, the most intelligent, the most physically capable, were taken from their families, converted to Islam, educated in Ottoman palace schools, and trained for either military or administrative service. These boys, completely severed from their birth communities and owing everything to the Sultan who had educated them, became the empire's most ferociously loyal servants. The Janissaries, the elite infantry corps drawn from devshirme recruits, were arguably the finest professional soldiers in the 15th century world. They were disciplined, highly trained, fanatically loyal, and utterly unlike the feudal levies that most contemporary armies depended upon. The sultans who drove the empire's golden age of expansion understood instinctively that governing a multi-ethnic, multi-religious empire required a different approach than simple conquest and suppression. The millet system granted recognized religious minorities, Christians and Jews primarily, substantial autonomy to govern their own communities according to their own laws and religious practices in exchange for loyalty and taxes. It was not equality by modern standards. Non-Muslims paid additional taxes and faced various legal disadvantages. But compared to the treatment of religious minorities in contemporary Christian Europe, where Jews were being expelled from country after country and heresy was punishable by burning, Ottoman tolerance was genuinely remarkable and practically effective. It kept conquered populations functional, productive, and sufficiently reconciled to Ottoman rule to avoid the constant rebellions that would have bled the empire dry. Murad II consolidated Ottoman control over the Balkans through the mid-15th century, defeating repeated crusading coalitions sent from Western Europe to roll back Ottoman gains. At the Battle of Varna in 1444, an Ottoman army shattered a crusading force led by the King of Poland and Hungary, effectively ending serious Western European military capacity to challenge Ottoman expansion in southeastern Europe. The Balkans were Ottoman. The question was only when Constantinople itself would finally fall. The answer came under Murad's son, Mehmed II, who ascended the throne at 19 with the conquest of Constantinople as his consuming obsession, and transformed that obsession into reality in 1453 with a military and engineering campaign that announced to the entire world that a new superpower had arrived. When Mehmed rode into the Hagia Sophia on the afternoon of May 29, 1453, he was not merely a sultan who had taken a city. He was the heir of Rome, the master of the trade routes connecting east and west, and the ruler of an empire that would endure for another 4.5 centuries. The small border tribe that Osman had led into battle against Byzantine frontier towns had become, within 6 generations, the dominant power of 3 continents. No single factor explains it, not military innovation alone, not religious motivation alone, not administrative sophistication alone. It was all of them simultaneously, compounding each other across generations of leaders who were, whatever their individual flaws, extraordinarily capable of building on what the generation before them had constructed. Empires rarely announce themselves. They begin at the edges. in the places the great powers aren't watching. And by the time anyone realizes what is happening, the border tribe has already become the superpower.